Okay, so I'm sure you all know why you're here at this point, and it's because we're finally at the end of the base game Heists of Payday 3. You're also probably wondering why I sound like this, and it's purely because I thought it would be funny. With that out of the way, it's time to go over the final launch heist of Payday 3. Touch the sky. It's a bit weird being at the last of the launch Payday 3 heists now, but it was bound to happen eventually. Touch the Sky takes place in a skyscraper penthouse owned by one Mason Laurent, who is one of the people that initially spearheaded the assassination attempt on the Payday gang that started this whole game. Similarly to Golden Shark, your actual objectives are the same regardless of your approach, but the way you handle them is different at certain points. Assuming you aren't using any favors, you start in front of the penthouse door with a guard blocking it. You have two options to get in from here. One being to move the guard out of the way and kill him, or take him hostage because for some reason the door won't even unlock until he's dead, even when he's nowhere near it. The other way you can get in is by going to the stairwell on the right and climbing to the air vent to enter the penthouse, which you can't re-ever for whatever reason that I think is stupid and would only require minor change. I'm not even done with entering the heist and the adding things. I need to stop. Anyway, once you're in the penthouse itself, you have three main rooms to worry about. The bedroom, locked behind what used to be another use of the circle mechanic before it was changed to a timer you can speed up by finding moments around the map. Thank you, Starbreeze, for changing that before I even had a chance to say anything. The filing room, locked with a QR reader that contains this red keycard that you need for the third room, which is Mason's office. The order you enter these rooms is recommended to be the bedroom, then the filing room, and then lastly the office, though no matter which one you do first, you'll eventually be going back and forth between all of them once you start moving the bags. The bedroom and office both have secret rooms hidden behind wall panels, and these are two areas where you get your loot from this heist. The main objective is an SSD with information on what Mason knows, but there are also 14 other bags in this heist for you to nab for extra money. To get the SSD, you need to find it inside the small safe in the big bedroom safe, which you find the code for by using Mason Owen with the panic room with the retina scanner. And in order to get him, you can either nab him after he goes outside to smoke, which isn't something I recommend, or just poisonous whiskey delivered with a bottle you can find in one of the many bathrooms on the heist after finding the button to reveal the retina scanner in the first place in the office. This wouldn't even be that bad if it didn't feel like such busy work to constantly move back and forth between these spots, though to be fair, the only time you actually need to move between them is when you initially get the panic room open for the code and then open the bedroom safe with said code to access the SSD. Now, on paper that's fine, but let me talk about the biggest pain in this heist when you're playing in as stealth: the guards. There's only like 5 of them inside the building, but they're so competent, it's infuriating. You think you're open to do something, and then as soon as you open the door, it turns out you've got 3 guards, all looking at the exact same hallway that you need to go down. And now the only way to progress this heist is by sitting still and waiting for 20 seconds until all of them move away. You have no idea how much of my experience playing this heist in stealth looks like this. Go away! Leave! In order to secure loot in this heist, you just have to take it to the elevator you originally entered from, which you can either do by distracting the guard in front of the door, assuming you didn't take care of him earlier in the heist, or use one of 2 favors to secure loot elsewhere, either in this air vent in the storage closet, or a window cleaning platform that requires you to mask up to enter in the first place. Once that's done, you're just free to leave. That was stealth, and it wasn't fun to get the footage for it, let me tell you. Thankfully, doing this loud is a lot easier on your patience, at least to some extent. Since you're blasting the alarm anyway, you might as well drop the guard in the front door and then book it towards Mason so that he doesn't sneak into his panic room once the alarm goes off. Yes, Mason has somewhat unique AI compared to other civilians, which I will talk more about something else that can be done with him later when I get to the actual changes relating to that. Your goals are still the same 3 rooms, but because the alarm going off causes the QR reader to shut down, you need to open the door with thermite. Either Bio will drop it off on the balcony, which I gotta say is some really good aim on his part, or you can just use the bag you stashed at the top of the staircase with a favor. Yeah, most of the favors for this heist aren't entirely useless, what a shocker. Now, you do end up going about most of the other objectives in a very similar way, but considering Mason is a civilian in the middle of a shootout, he can be removed from the equation in a multitude of ways, so the panic room can thankfully also be opened with a drill, after which the objectives are identical to stealth aside from calling in Bile with a flare on the balcony to escape. Honestly, this is probably one of the least offensive of the original launch heists, so in terms of changes, I'd probably start with smaller things, such as a way to re-enter the vents like I mentioned in the beginning of my stealth summary. You don't need to do much here. Either adjust the geometry of the vents themselves slightly so you need to climb up one more time inside the vents themselves and they're lower when you exit, or just put a chair or box in front of each of the vent exits and suddenly you have a whole new area to move around in for stealth. It doesn't really solve the main issue I have with stealth, which is all the guards constantly watching each other's backs like actual guards would, but it's better to polish something that already exists first before doing something like changing the entirety of guard pathing. Now, another thing I think needs to be looked at are the favors. Yes, most of them are actually useful and do make the heist either more interesting or just progress faster, but the two I really want to highlight here are the poison bottle favor and the window cleaning platform. Firstly, the window cleaning platform is only usable in stealth, since as soon as you go loud, it's not usable as a spot to secure loot in anymore. I think the simplest way to avoid this is to have a chance for a window cleaning platform to be next to the window to Mason's office, so that way you have both an alternative escape route that's actually more hidden from the guards, and also use the favor to bypass needing to find the red key card. Granted, the biggest drawback of this favor is the requirement to mask up, which I wouldn't remove at all. Plus, it'd be interesting to have as an alternate secure point in Loud, since Loud only really has the balcony chopper. On the flip side, there's the poison bottle favor, which basically just puts a bottle of poison that you can use to poison Mason's whiskey later in the elevator shaft instead of the bathrooms that guards never enter anyway. This is just useless, since out of the 5 rooms the poison could be in, 3 of them are already downstairs in a private area, where the worst thing that'll happen is you getting escorted out. Even if you are upstairs in the secure section of the map, the bathrooms are perfect for hiding anyway, so there's no real risk in going to these rooms. I stash bodies in there all the time. Instead, I'd rather focus on a mechanic the heist already has active, assuming you haven't masked up, and that's the VIP invite on the delivery boy that you can steal to make the bottom floor free reign, just like in Rock the Cradle, except in a much smaller environment. I'd just say to have the favor give you a VIP invite hidden in the stairwell so you can just waltz on into the penthouse naturally. Now, if you're staying in stealth, you'd still need to mask up to grab Mason for the retina scanner, but this would be a powerful but not game-breaking favor. Really, the most time the poison bottle saves is like 15 seconds. Replace it with something actually useful. Now, back to the heist itself rather than the modifications. I mentioned how in Loud, Mason has somewhat unique AI, and I think this could be expanded on in Stealth a bit, actually. Since Mason goes on a whole tirade about how the Payday gang is messing up his operation, I feel like it would only make sense that he'd be alerted by you whether you're masked up or not, and once he sees you, in a similar way to how guards see you when you're trespassing, he'd start making his way to the panic room where you then get to follow him and watch him unlock the door to the panic room like in Loud, and then you can go in yourself for the loot and the safe code. I feel like tweaking a setting with Mason specifically shouldn't be too difficult, especially if it's just reusing something that's already there. Now, why would people do the poison method instead of this? Well, the poison would still technically be a safer option once you're masked, so there'd still be a reason to use that method. Plus, more variety in getting from point A to point B never hurt anything. The last thing I think I'd add is an alternate escape in Loud, once again using the office window as your place to escape. Mostly because you wouldn't exactly be able to use the elevator, and the stairs are where the SWAT units are coming from, so you could very easily rappel down like it's suggested in Road Rage, or just call Bile in a different location to change things up a bit. Overall, Touch the Sky is a heist that I absolutely despise in Stealth, but do find some reasonable enjoyment when I play it in Loud, especially when it gives me an opportunity to flex my effective invincibility with my minigun and grenade build. Which, speaking of, if you guys are interested in seeing the builds I use, let me know, I could make a short video going over each one. Back to the heist though, I think this one is really just fine. The setting is unique and the visuals are nice, but a lot of what you're really doing is going forward and back again and forward and back and then go forward and back, then put 1 foot forward to get things done properly. Granted, when you're shooting things in a cramped locale like this, it's good to have a reason to move between spots, but in Stealth it can either be a frustrating waiting game or the most boring thing imaginable, with 0 in between. But that's Touch the Sky, and with that I've gone over what I'd change in all 8 of the original Payday 3 launch heists. With some luck, someone in Starbreeze dev team will see these and implement some of these recommendations. Honestly, this has just been a really interesting series of videos to make, especially since I never anticipated getting anyone to see these, let alone some regulars in the comments with their own suggestions, which I very much appreciate. Really, I expected this would probably hit 500 views at most, and that was being generous. A quick editor's note here. I am editing this on the same day that Starbreeze released their next quarterly roadmap for February, March, and April, and I was not expecting them to say that they would be reworking all the heists, let alone just directly removing all the circles, but, well, that's kind of what happens, and I can't even say for sure whether or not I'm responsible for that, but, you know, let's just hope that the changes are good and take notes from this series. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but, you know. Anyway, back to the video. As for what's next, well, I'm likely going to make a longer video talking about Payday 3 in a more general sense and what I fixed in it. Or it could be something else entirely, who knows. I'm really going to make what I feel like, whether it's related to Payday or not, but we'll see what the future holds when it comes. Until then, thanks for watching, I appreciate you stopping by, and take care.